Welcome to another episode of Unmasking Dyslexia. I'm Carlene, your host. In today's episode, I wanted to showcase and highlight and talk about one of the studies that I came across after I was first diagnosed that really brought a big impact to how I saw my processing style. And the reason why this study we're going to talk about brought this to me was that it started to highlight that the way society talks about and thinks about dyslexia needs to shift because science is starting to show that being dyslexic actually means something other than just learning challenges or reading difficulties. It influences the social experience of individuals with this processing style. Now, the study we're going to talk about was done in 2021 by Virginia Sturm and her colleagues. And the title of this study was Enhanced Visceral Motor Emotional Reactivity in Dyslexia and its Relation to the Salience Network. Big, long name. What we're going to find, though, is that their results were hugely impactful and became a great understanding for myself, anyways, with how dyslexia influences relationships. And what they discovered through their study was that dyslexics, or more specific, those dyslexics who present with a phonetic issues or challenges, if you want to say so, they present very differently. And what we have to realize is when we're looking at scientific studies, we really need to look at the demographic or who the participants are. Because too many times we look at scientific studies and we apply it to the entire population, and that's not really accurate because we all present differently. And what was so great about this study is they did highlight that they studied phonetic dyslexics versus some of the other phenotypes or presentations that dyslexia can present with an individual, such as reading, memory, any of those others. And we'll talk more about those in other aspects. And maybe because I am a phonetic dyslexic, that this study really impacted me because in a way it was kind of talking about my brain. What Sturm and her colleagues did was they took 10-year-olds, both almost equal, male and female, or boys and girls, dyslexics who presented with the phonetic challenges of dyslexia. They showed them visual movies, and then what they did is they monitored actually their skin temperature. They videoed them to watch facial expressions. They monitored their brains. They did a full-on exploration of what does it mean to be exposed to emotional stimuli as a dyslexic individual. And what they found was that the dyslexics with the phonetic dyslexics, they had increased emotional behavior. And what they found was those that had increased emotional behavior also showed higher social skills and symptoms, along with symptoms of anxiety and depression. So what this means is that emotional behavior is how our faces actually express what we're thinking. And what they found was that these subjects actually had increased facial expression when they were seeing or speaking about emotional experiences. I have to admit that I have been told that I have a very expressive face, and maybe that is because of my dyslexic brain. Now, with that, we have higher individuals who present this way have higher emotional skills. Now, there are studies which I'll bring up in future episodes that actually say that dyslexics have lower social skills. And what we have to start to realize is that they could actually be studying a different type of dyslexic individual. So those who struggle with the phonetics have been shown within this study that they actually have higher emotional and social skills but they also are more expressive on their faces with the emotions that they are feeling. With this, what it basically has us understand is that through this expression or this way of processing emotional stimuli, these individuals are basically hypersensitive and could be hyperreactive to nonverbal cues in that convey affect or emotional communication. So these dyslexics actually become keen observers, and they're able to cut through communication into maybe more of what is meant by the person who is expressing verbal or standing across from these dyslexic individuals. I guess long and short, what is just so important about this study is it shows that dyslexic individuals actually have more going on for them than just issues within school. This is a social processing style. It affects relationships. Because imagine you being a dyslexic individual who processes the world this way. You are able to pick up on the subtle cues of those that speak to you. You see below the language. You see what's happening to a greater effect than the typical person. You are a keen observer, but because of that, you process higher levels of emotions within you, which is why emotional regulation becomes so important for those who are dyslexic. Understanding and naming your own emotions and then understanding and bringing compassion to them are essential. One thing that I have found when I am able to pick up on emotional cues within conversations is I use my breath. To me, my breath is one of the greatest tools that I can use to create or decrease overwhelm and increase being centered within myself. What I have found is that with the breath, it's a great tool because, first of all, we all have to breathe. Second of all, it comes with you. You don't need any additional tools. And thirdly, generally speaking, people don't know what you're doing. They just notice that you're taking deeper or slower breaths, which can actually shift the way others react to us if we start almost exuding calm. Emotional regulation is important for us dyslexics because if you are a phonetic based on this study, we pick up more than the typical person. We pick up more than what anyone would expect us to. And because of that, we have keen communication skills in that we see what people are saying beyond their words. I'll have the link below in the show notes to the study so that you can read it as well and determine for yourself where you think. Before I end this little segment, what we have to realize is that this processing could exist for all types of dyslexics. More research is needed. We need to look at the other phenotypes or observable traits of dyslexia to see if they also present the exact same way. This is the thing. Science begins with one population and in hopes we can expand it to include other populations so that we can have a greater understanding. And for us dyslexics, this is important because it's time to rewrite our story.